Hi everyone, it's been a while, so yeah, let's see if I can actually remember how to do this. So obviously it would be madness to try and bring you up to date on everything I've read over the past 9 months or however long it's been. So I'm just going to quickly go through my top 5 books that I've read over that time. Most of my comments are going to be pretty brief because some of these books I read over 6 months ago and don't really remember. I can barely remember the last book I read, if I'm honest. So let's get started. The first one I want to talk about is The Collector by John Fowles. I read this just after I made my last video, and I actually planned to make a review of this at the time because I loved it so much. So this was written in the early 1960s, and it tells the story of a young man who is obsessed with a younger woman. And this man comes into a lot of money suddenly. He wins the football pools and decides what he's going to do is abduct her and keep her prisoner until she falls in love with him, because if only she can get to know the real him, then of course she'll fall in love with him. Of course. But yeah, definitely recommend it. It worked its way into my head. I'm still thinking about it every now and again, and it's one that I will probably go back and read someday. The second book I want to talk about is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This was on loads of bestseller lists. It was really, really popular, so you've probably already heard of it. So it tells the story of Henrietta Lacks, who was an African-American woman who died in the early 1950s in America of cervical cancer. And the cells that were taken from her cancer without her knowledge or consent were the first human tissue cells to be grown in culture, and they've become this huge, vital component of medical science and medical progress. They were involved in the development of the polio vaccine. They've just made like this unmeasurable impact on medical science. But Henrietta did not know or consent to her cells being taken. Her family were not aware of it. They've never seen any money from the culturing of her cells. So this tells her and her family's story. And one of the things I really, really loved about it was the way that Rebecca Skloot, dust jacket's coming off, the way that Rebecca Skloot manages to weave together a biography of Henrietta and her family, a medical history story, a text about medical ethics, and who owns bodily tissues, and also her own story of what it was like to write this book and her relationship with the Lacks family and how that developed. And it's just so fascinating. It made me cry, it made me sob, ugly sobs. So if you have any interest in at all in medical history and medical ethics, in the position of African Americans in mid-century America, especially their relationship with medical institutions, then I would highly recommend this one. Okay. The next book I want to talk about is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. Not gonna lie, don't remember this one too clearly. I seem to remember it was two separate stories, both with themes of grieving. It's not the type of book that I usually love. I usually go for very plot-driven novels, but I remember this one was much more about the prose, about characters' feelings and emotions, obviously because they were grieving, but it was really, really beautiful. Yeah, and I'd highly recommend it. From the back, Kitchen juxtaposes two tales about mothers, transsexuality, bereavement, kitchens, love and tragedy in contemporary Japan. So yeah, it's really beautiful, even though I am failing massively at remembering any of the details. I have another sort of medical humanities book that I'd like to recommend, and that is On Immunity by Eula Biss. I think a lot of people have read this. It's been really well received, but it is as good as everyone says. So this is sort of an extended essay on Eula Biss's journey, almost, as she considers vaccinating her son. And then she weaves that together with, again, medical history and sort of philosophy about why we vaccinate, and also literary criticism. She brings in Dracula and all these concepts about invasion and you know, bodily boundaries and things like that, and how we can see medical progress and social issues mirrored in literature. It's really, really well written. I only gave it 4 stars, and that was just because there was one part of it where I felt it went a bit. I felt like Biss had used it as a bit of a method to air a grudge that she was clearly still holding, and I didn't really like that. So I dropped a star for it, but I would highly recommend it. Again, especially if you have any sort of interest in medical humanities, but also just because vaccination's a really important issue in today's society. I will straight up say that I am very pro vaccination, so take that in my review of this as you will. And the final book I want to talk about is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. So this is set in West Africa at the beginning of the 20th century, and follows the fortunes of a man called Okonkwo as he tries to become an even more important man within his village and clan, and also the fortunes of his families and his friends. So the book starts off pre-British colonisation and then ends like shortly after the first colonisers have arrived, and looks at the impact that they had on Okonkwo and his village and other villages in the area. It's really beautifully written, and it's a really interesting topic. I know that some people probably won't like it because Okonkwo isn't exactly a wonderful man. He's definitely highly, highly flawed. But I absolutely loved it. I really want to read some more of Achebe's work, so hopefully I will get around to that soon. Yeah, really good. I'd highly recommend that. I was going to say out of the 5 I said, I'd recommend this one the most, but I don't think that's true. I recommend them all equally. You should read them all. Yeah, so... Okay, so hopefully I haven't failed too badly at my first video back. I can't promise that videos will become a regular thing again. I'm hoping that they will. I've already got a kind of idea that I would like to do a video and a series of reviews maybe about books that talk about class. So yeah, fingers crossed I will actually keep this up again. Let me know if you've read any of those books. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them, and also if you have any recommendations for that type of thing. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you soon. Bye!